one. Oh,
No, go ahead. Let
um,
you lead. Go ahead. Yeah.
okay. So one thought I also had was, is there also seems to be an element of sometimes people have a clear conception. Oh, I want my character to be this, right? And they have a pretty firm conception. And then at the other end, it's more like I'm going to discover who my character is through play and through their relationships with everybody else and so on.
Well,
So I was
Ross brought
wondering
this up,
how.
right?
Yeah,
Ross brought this up
yeah,
at the
yeah,
forum. So this is
right.
where we were talking about. I call it a forum. Old habits, right? Um, well, anyway, the interesting thing about that is, again, if we have, let's imagine two character sheets, and on one character sheet there's a fairly minimal amount of information, just enough to play, just enough to step into. And maybe it's even a game where the notion of character backstory is just, you know, I don't know. I mean, the game designer didn't even imagine a character backstory as playing any role and could care less. And so you don't have anything on the sheet. It wasn't required. There is no, write up. RuneQuest, early RuneQuest is actually like that. There's nothing in the system that characterizes that person a bit when you start playing. And most forms of Dungeons and Dragons until recently also had literally nothing down about like alignment at most, and that was so
Right.
muddled and variously interpreted through play anyway that you can't call it a guide. But there was nothing about like what kind of a person they were about or what they wanted or anything like that. And yet, so you can think about a character who, despite whatever mechanical detail is necessary, or how elaborate the resolution and skill system is, or anything like that, that it's pretty much a blank. And then we all know games which are very much at the other end, where you
Right.
almost have, a personality crisscross, a juxtaposed personality profile of, it was White Wolf who really got this going. They didn't start it, but they really got it going with their internal self and their external self for the vampire characters. So you had to pick something off the list for their internal self and pick something off the list for the external self. And then there's lots and lots of others that we've seen where sometimes it's done by visual style, like in Troll Babe or Apocalypse World, where you pick off a quick list and then that gives you a profile of appearance where it clicks into your mind where the character is coming from or how they present, which is very individual. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. You can have it be really blank, and you can have it be really, really unknown what they're like, and also very strongly written down what they're like. But Manu, I think the variable is completely different. It's not about how they start; it's about how much change is actually able to happen during play itself, right? I
Oh,
mean, you
interesting.
could start with a very strong idea of exactly where the character is like. The question is whether you're starting with a very strong idea about where they're going to end up. And
Right.
if you don't, then having that strong starting point is a jumping off point. And if you stay with it, like I did with Shining Star and her most important value, it's a choice, right? So it's still, a dynamic thing because it's a choice to stick with it. Um, and I think that's what I wanted to focus on there was character. Are you playing a character so that they turn out the way you want? You get what you want from that character and you know
Hmm.
what you want from that character. You're going to play, lethal knife grim dark, lethal blade grim dark, right? And he's a half evil elf, but his grandfather was replaced by a demon, and you know. Any whatever, go on. He's an assassin crossed with sorcerer, and here I am mocking it, but I just described like characters that I used to play a lot. So
Right.
sue me. There's a reason I can describe these characters so well. But the point is that you've got this character, and I can tell you from personal experience and from also from other people's accounts, when they make up that character, you know what they're dreaming of more than anything else in the world? What we were dreaming of whenever we made up Lethal Blade Grimdark, you know, with his tattered black cloak and his haunted eyes and his gloomy Wolverine-like utterances that shut everyone else up because they were just so damn dark, right? All that stuff. Manny's laughing. But what we were dreaming of? We were dreaming of the heroic sacrifice at the end when everybody would be sorry. We were dreaming of the moment when it would all rest on us. When we would show, right? That, you know, that we cared so much. And of course we would die so that way we wouldn't have to live with being such wussies, right? But, you know, but we would, and then we would show them, and then they would feel sorry, and then they would know just how much torment we had been feeling the whole time under our crusty cigar smoking exteriors, right? I'm mixing up genres on purpose because you did this in superheroes, and you did this in horror, and you did this in fantasy, and you did this in, you know, super agents, and you did this in God knows science fiction, you know, who knows what, but you played that guy for that reason, damn it. And that was one of the reasons why playing those characters was so painful, because it never got there.
Right.
You had your story in your head, right? You know where the character is going to go. So, Alexandra, what are your...
I was thinking about something similar, and tell me if it's similar or it's something else. So I observed two different approaches to the what my character is. So let's say that we make a character that's an honorable soldier, or for example, yeah. So he's a honorable man, and in one approach, because I decided that my character is honorable, then in every next situation, I will act as an honorable person.
Yeah, that's the thespian model. This is my role. I play that role, right?
Yeah, and in the second approach is I decided that my character is honorable man right now, and that he or she tries to act and behave honorably, but I want to see whether he
how pressure. You want pressure.
Yes, I want pressure. I want to know or to see how this character will behave in a different situation, like when he has to choose between different values. I don't know if it's the similar thing or not.
I think it's a very important thing, because in the first case, you are answering the question. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because one thing I've noticed is sometimes it's useful to hold something steady so that other things can vary, right? But let's take the most extreme form where nothing's going to vary. What you say is what you get for everything for this character. And honorable is just one example. So let's take that instance. Well, how is that a good thing? Sometimes it might be fun to do what I was talking about with Shining Star and say, well, I'm not the spotlight person. Or I was, but now I'm not. And so I'm going to enjoy being the way I am, because whatever else everyone else is doing gets to bounce off of the way I am. So I'm there, you know, because they're troubled, because they can change. It's nice to have me there and I'm not, because the light's not on me, right? So it's not necessarily a terrible thing to have that view toward your character. what's kind of interesting, what I was talking about was taking that to the point where you do want the emulation, you want the presentation of choice, but you know the way you want it to go. Right. And
it's kind of backwards, right?
Oh, I think it's completely backwards. Yeah.
Okay. I think this character of mine in D&D would be a relevant example here.
Mm-hmm.
So I told the GM, I am choosing this character as a troubled person, as a person who had to run out of the city because she did something awful and pissed off so many people that they want to kill her. And then she did the same thing in the Legions, and now she's back. And I want to see situations where she has to like either interrogate those people she pissed off before, or that she's not protected anymore by her by the senator, and they like came to her or something. Like I explicitly told him that I'm interested in this kind of situations, and I want to see what my character is gonna do in those. I don't know what right. She will do. Like probably right. Something volatile.
Right. Well, this is actually, I think, a critical point. I mean, speaking as the author of Sorcerer, which is completely based on your life has been thrown, completely, your life has changed today. So now what do you do? And you've already made moral compromises to be a sorcerer, but you had it under control. Now what do you do? Everything's changing on you. And so the openness of that is very much against the idea that you know even what kind of problems your character will face, much less what your character will be like once they get there. So it seems to me that I'm going to put it. Am I saying that a dramatic arc with changes and the character undergoes changes and developments is that ipso facto good? And I'm saying no, because if you mechanically know it's going to happen that way, right, and it's going to turn out that way, or you want it to, and you ignore the game until you get what you want, which is what we all did with those dark characters. If you do those, that's not really the kind of dynamism I'm talking about. And I'm maintain, like I said before, that even if you do keep your character consistent and they don't undergo a big change, but you could have. So your choice not to do that is really a choice. If you do that, all of these are alike because you don't know where the character will be as a person, as an agent in the game now. You don't, and I don't care how elaborate and how written down and how nailed down and how mechanically detailed they are, or who made up which pieces to begin with. That's the question. Can your character respond to things and be either the same or different as you see fit as you go on? Right? That's the question. Yeah. Sorry.
I call it that like a person allows themselves allows the character to change and is open for this change to be. It doesn't necessarily has to be the change, but it's like
right.
It could be, yeah. If it happens, it will happen, and I will not protect my character against it.